second chance to go do something for him. It's awesome that you can go through the Old Testament and literally put every character in the category of second chance people. David had a second chance. He had numerous second chances. David got the favor of God, and then David lost the favor of God. David was a noble king, and then David was a murderous, lying, adulterous king. Stole a man's wife when he only had that wife. And David lied to cover up her pregnancy and then had the husband killed in a masterful, better than any Lifetime movie script you could ever read. David engineered his own cover-up in such a way that no one would ever know, but God knew. And the thing about most of us is we always think of God in terms of austerity and a judgment God. I grew up knowing that every time you sin, having it kind of reiterated, every time you mess up, God's going to fix you. God's going to punish you. I've waited on the thump on the back of my head for God to catch up with me for years, knowing sooner or later, it's coming. Right in the middle of my prosperity one day will come the bam, and God finally catches me. And all my sins catch up with me, because that's the kind of God I was raised with. God had plans for David, and David's sins couldn't mess up God's plans. Your sins don't mess up God's plans. God sent a prophet to David, a courageous man, had to walk up to David and figure out the only way to get this story told to David is I cannot start by saying, David, you messed up and God told me about it. He'll just silence me. He's already silenced her husband, had him killed. So David goes to an audience with the prophet, and the prophet says, I've come to you, king, because there's a guy down in the village, down in town. He's rich, and he has all kinds of sheep. And he had a guest come to stay with him. And instead of killing one of his sheep to have a banquet, he went down the street to a guy that only had one little ewe lamb, and he killed that guy. And I stole it from him and killed it and had it dressed and prepared just to have a banquet with the other guy's sheep when he's got all kinds of sheep. And David was incensed over that. He was angry that a man would kill a poor man's only sheep, but not angry that he would take another man's wife and then have that man murdered because he wanted to cover up the fact that he had, unfortunately, made that man's wife pregnant. And so now David is incensed over this fictitious story of a rich man stealing a sheep. And David says, who is the man? You tell me who he is. I'll fix him. I don't know about you, but if I'd been that prophet, I would have made sure I was at the door where I could run when I said, David, thou art the man. And that's what he said. You are the man. And to David's credit, he did not stop for a moment and collapse and say, uh-oh, God's caught me. When God catches me, my career's over. My life's over. My hope is over. My prosperity is going to fail. No. God finally caught him, but not to kill him. He caught him to get him back on track and back where he wanted him to be. David's penitent psalms, the psalms where David wrote, wash me, God, thoroughly from my iniquity. Cleanse me. Recreate a clean heart in me, a new spirit in me. All those penitent psalms, thank God for them, because every time you read one of David's penitent psalms, repentant songs, you know that David is simply expressing his gratitude to God for rescuing him from sin and putting him back on track. Gave him second chance.